Good evening, fight fans. Sunday Straight Talk is in session. It's been a couple of weeks, lean pickings, but the fights are back and they are back with a bang. As always, my co-host of No Punches Pulled, the host of Liam Tully's Sweet Boxing Science, or LT's Sweet Boxing Science, my No Punches Pulled co-host and statman, Liam Tully. How are we, brother?
I'm all good, brother. It's been a couple of lean weeks, possibly a good week to get a bit busy in personal life and starting a job. I haven't missed out on too much, but yeah, back with a vengeance this week. The UFC preview you and Sam have just done, I was watching as well. That's, it's a good UFC card, but we got some Saudi boxing. Look, a couple of fights may have fallen off the cards. We may have some complaints about some of the fights, but there's a bit of jeopardy, especially in the main event, which we're going to come into, I know.
Would you want to start with the boxing? Should we start with the boxing?
Let's go for it, mate. Let's go out to Saudi.
Let's go out to Saudi. So we've got UK time, which is always great for UK fans. So we've got Leeds' own Cash Asfak starting the card against Hayato Sume. Can I be honest? I don't rate Cass Ashfaq. I think it's flattered to deceive. He turned over with fanfare. I think he was part of the GB Olympic squad, I believe.
Wide squad, wasn't he? I don't think he ever made it, did he? I think he was wide.
I don't think he went, but look, he was part of Team GB and he turned over with some fanfare. But in the pro ranks, he seems to have sort of flattered to deceive, and he's fighting up at super featherweight. I don't believe that he's big enough to be a super featherweight. I think Cass Ashfaq is a super bantam / featherweight at best. What's your take on the curtain jerker?
Look, you always get one fight on these Saudi cards that you go, how is this guy? How's this guy in there? From? Yeah. You think Josh Padley against Mark Chamberlain back on the Wembley card almost a year ago now. There's always one fight, and ever since what Padley done that night to Chamberlain, I've been very wary of writing off the fighter that you're looking at going, right, what are they doing on this card? But look, it's a fantastic opportunity for Ashfaq, but as you said, mate, he was part of the wider GB squad. Look, it's fantastic that he was, but he was often the travelling reserve for competitions. He was never, the best of the best in his division. So it's an opportunity to change his life, as we see on these cards all the time. But you just think he's there to see what he's got. And if he pulls off a result, it will be something we're definitely talking about on Sunday morning.
Can I say something that's probably going to get me a lot of hate? But Cass Ashfaq is an open Muslim fighter based in Leeds that has a massive Muslim contingent. It's one of the most multicultural cities in the country. I'm from Bradford, which again is a very multicultural city, and I believe that some of the East Asian fighters and Muslim fighters are getting shots based on them trying to bring that demographic into the fold and bolster the brand within that demographic, because it's a Muslim continent that they're fighting on. I'm not saying that's the only reason that Cass Ashfaq has got this slot, but I don't believe if it was called Michael Smith from Castleford with a very similar record, they wouldn't have just plucked a kid out of obscurity and plonked him on there. And Cash Ashfaq I can't remember the last time I saw him fight on TV. Can you?
Liam Dillon for the British, I think, which was 2023, I want to say.
There you go. So he's sort of fallen off a little bit. I'm pretty sure he turned over with Matchroom, did he not?
Yeah.
I think. I'm not sure if he's still with Matchroom, but I don't believe he is. But, it's a strange one. And I think it might have something to do with the fact that they're trying to grow the brand within a certain demographic. Maybe. What do I know? I don't lace up for a living. I just talk about fights. But yeah, it's a strange one for him to get the shot, because he's not somebody that's sort of bubbling under. When we've seen how good he is, and I don't think he's that good. So I'm not expecting him to sort of burst onto the masses sort of scene. He don't hit that hard, and his style's not that flashy. So I don't see the reason or the justification for having him on such a big card, really, because it is a big card.
Yeah, mate, the only thing I'm going to go for, so I've just got their records up here. Satsumi is 7-0, Ashfaq is 13-3-1. So if you want to play the experience card, he's obviously been there at a domestic level. I agree with everything you've just said, but trying to put a different spin on it, maybe trying to look for why they've done it. They've gone someone that's got, 10 more fights than what this prospect has. And look, Satsumi in recent times, his last 4 fights I'm looking at here, all in the 3rd round, and then one went to the 7th. He's done them all by stoppage. He's on a bit of a roll. Ooh. Maybe they see Ashfaq as someone that's going to have the potential to take rounds.
Yeah, because he's a good boxer, is Ashfaq. I'll give him that. So he might be able to tuck up and, like you said, give him rounds. Sorry, I cut you off then.
No, Masood Abdullah is the only person to stop Ashfaq, and that was in October, of last year. Just having a quick look on BoxRec. So he's not known for being stopped. How often do we talk about a fighter being brought in for a prospect because they've got a record of being able to last the rounds? Just trying to put a different spin on it. Maybe that's what they're trying to get out of it. But along with the David Adeleye-Hrgovic fight, it's the other fight on the card that I'm going, not really sure how this has ended up.
So obviously with that fight's next on the card, my opener for that fight was how? Why has this fight been made? I just don't get it. Is it an easy soft touch for Hrgovic? Because on paper, Hrgovic is 2 or 3 levels above Adeleye. Have they seen something in Adeleye in the TKV fight? Because if they did, I wasn't watching the same fight. I didn't see it. And Hrgovic, for me, yes, he's coming off a defeat, but against, a world-class former world champion. It's a strange one. What's your take on it, Liam?
Yeah, look, it's a weird one. Look, let's talk about Hrgovic quickly. Obviously, he had his Dubois loss, and me and you were on the same page that until those cuts came about, he was beating.
He was winning. Yeah,
he was winning. Yes, Dubois was having his moments and he was having success, but until those cuts completely took everything away from Hrgovic that night, he was winning. He was beating Daniel Dubois. He's then come back in and fought Joe Joyce earlier this year in a fight that I had to check multiple times. I wasn't watching in slow motion just because of the sheer one-dimensionalness. Look, he slugs it out with Joe Joyce and ultimately won. That's what it was. It was a slugging fight for 10 rounds. Adeleye. Look, we know what the path was with Adeleye. He was ordered to rematch TKV.
Yeah.
Almost within the same breath of that being announced, he's being announced on this Saudi card. So you can go 2 ways with that. He feels like he's proven his point at British level, and this Hrgovic opportunity is an opportunity he couldn't pass up. Or the route I'm more thinking, he's seen the flipping cash checkbook come out from Turkey. He knows what it's like out in Saudi because he's already fought out there when he fought Fabio the first time.
Yeah.
And he's decided to go. Look, David Adeleye.
What Wardley is talking about there, guys, we don't know him as Fabio, you see. Just for the people that may not know who he's talking about.
Apologies, Fabio.
His boy.
I think the other thing for Adeleye as well, and Adam Booth is a master at this. If he does lose to Hrgovic, he's still not quite ready for the world level. We can go back down to the domestic route. There's a chip there to say, okay, TKV, you're going to go and fight Fraser Clark. I'm going to do this. If I come short at that level, why am I not going to get a shot at whoever wins that fight? We know that Adam Booth is the master at putting these fighters in these positions, but knowing the fail-safes there underneath. And that's what this is for me. Hrgovic should win inside the distance, but you just never know, do you? Adeleye, you always feel like at some point there's going to be a performance that makes you really sit up and go, wow, we hoped we were going to get it against TKV. We got the controversy because of the ending, but we didn't get the performance. Perhaps Saturday night's finally going to be his performance, but Jesus, it kind of needs to be for Adeleye.
Yeah, I look, it's an 80-20 for me. That's how wide I believe that the skill set difference is. You touched on it there. I think the Dubois fighters give people an unrealistic perception of how good Hrgovic is. Before that loss, Hrgovic was being picked as the next guy for Usyk and the next guy to not necessarily beat him, but one of the better heavyweights. And he came off a loss that he got stopped on cuts. That you've touched on it. We were in agreement, and I believe Sam also was in agreement. We watched it together that Dubois was losing that fight, not getting beaten up, but he was just getting outboxed. And I think Dubois is a better boxer than Adelaide. And I know boxing maths doesn't he beat him and you're better than him, so you beat him. I know it doesn't work like that. And Adelaide hits really hard. But I just think that Hrgović is cute enough to be able to manipulate his way around Adelaide and just outbox him. I don't think he'll. I mean, I could see him stopping Adelaide, but I don't think he will. I think he'll just beat him up. It'll be a 10-rounder, I'm assuming. Is it a 10 or?
It's a 10.
They haven't put a bauble on it, have they? I think he'll just beat him up for 10 rounds. Unless he gets caught. I think Adelaide's chance is to, I know he's with Adam Booth, and Adam Booth's a technician, but I've not seen massive improvements in Adelaide. Boxes pretty much the same every fight. Jabs, looks for the overhand right. You can see it coming a mile off. I just think that this fight's all wrong for him. But, like you say, the narrative can be, we took our shot, we've tried. He's going to go back to the grindstone and back down at domestic level again. I think it's a cash grab. I think it is what it says on the tin. It's a cash grab. And we do the same. If someone offered us, instead of recording straight talk, you in your bedroom, me in my living room, in a big all-purpose built studio, and we got paid a big wedge of cash to do it in Saudi, we'd do it and we'd cancel whatever we had with Sam on Tuesday.
Mate, we'd be on the plane tomorrow if that came up. Look, and
if anyone's offering, by the way, that's a hint, by the way, if anyone wants to throw some dough at us.
And look, let's just clarify for people watching, because I know I speak on when I say this, you'll agree with me. We're not calling it a cash grab because we're slagging it off. We would do exactly the same.
No. We understand why it's happening. Because this fight would not have been made. Get down. Sorry, my dog's just out the window.
This fight would not have been made in the UK, in America, anywhere else in the world if it wasn't Saudi.
No, it's a card filler. They're putting two names on there. Adelaide's got a decent profile in the UK, so fight fans are going to want to sit and watch. Filip Hrgović has a world level profile. Everybody knows who Filip Hrgović is. He's one of the top 10 heavyweights still, I believe. Certainly top 15. But yeah, when I say cash grab, I just mean, look, he's doing what any of us would do. He's got an opportunity of doing a bit of work, but he's going to get paid 4 or 5 times more what he would ordinarily get paid. And you've also got to remember that he potentially could have lost to TKV in the rematch for a similar purse to what he got for the first fight. This fight, he's got a puncher's chance. He's got a lot of exposure. He's on a massive card. And, there's nothing to say that he beats Hrgović and then gets the winner of the main event. Another massive all-British fight. So there's a couple of angles, and his paycheck's going to be 4 or 5 times more than what he would have got for rematching TKV. So we understand it. I just don't understand why it's being made. But then I've just given a load of reasons as to why it's being made. But look, I think Hrgović wins this fight fairly comfortably for me.
Yeah, I think Hrgović stops him. I'll be honest. I think Hrgović stops Adelaide. I think it will go similar to the Wardley fight. Adelaide will probably look good the first couple of rounds because he comes out quite quickly, doesn't he? So even if he's not doing a lot, he can look good for a 6-9 minutes if an opponent's slow to start. And we know Hrgović is not the quickest of starters or quickest of fighters, full stop. No. So Adelaide may have some success early, but when Hrgović starts landing his right hand over the top and he starts roughing Adelaide up on the insides, that's when we're going to see a difference. I think back ends of the fight we'll see a stoppage for Hrgović. But
so we're both going for Hrgović wins. I can feel that, yeah.
Yeah, but I would love nothing more than Adelaide to pull it off, and he gets the winner of the main event from a domestic standpoint.
Absolutely, but don't get it twisted, guys. We're not haters of Adelaide. And I know I have given him shit before because he said that Wardley was shit while he was on his back with his gum shield and his eyes rolled to the back of his head. But, I'd love him to win. We always back the Brits, But realistically, as a boxing fan, I'm surprised it got made. I understand why it's been made. And it would be awesome for Adelaide to flatline Hrgović within 3 or 4 rounds and then sit ringside and say, I want the winner. I'll test Moses. Or I'll fight Dillian, depending on who wins that fight. So, I'm excited for it. Next fight we will see, Ray Ford against Abraham Nova at super featherweight for the, super feather. Do you think, now I think that they have put this fight on because I think we will see Ford against Ball 2 for the WBA super featherweight title. What's your take on Nova versus Ford?
Well, it's a step down from what the original fight was, isn't it? Which was Kakachi. Yes. Is it good that Ray Ford stayed on the cards? Absolutely. Did I have him as a favourite against Kakachi? Again, not because I like bashing Brits. Yes, I just think Ray Ford is a very talented fighter, and I know you share the same views. Him and Nick Ball being on the same card, I think Turkey is teeing it up nicely for a rematch that we'd all watch again.
Absolutely.
Nova, I think, what did we say was he's 3-5 in his last 8 lots of fights, and one of them's a draw as well. So he's only actually won 1 of his last 8. It's not the most inspiring of records. Look, you expect you expect Ray Ford to put on a Ray Ford style performance. I think it will probably be a wide points victory, but similar to what Shakur Stevenson done against Josh Padley earlier in the year. I know more of a gap between Nova coming into what Padley did. I'd like to see Ford notice a weakness in the ring and then stamp on it until he gets the stoppage. That's what I'd like to see, but I think possibly more looking at a shutout points victory for the American.
I'm on the other side of the fence. I think Ford's going to come out looking to make a statement. I think he's got the bit between his teeth. I think we're really ready for the Kakachi fight. I thought he was going to outpoint Kakachi. I thought he was going to beat him on points. I've been really impressed with Ray Ford, even in his defeat to Ball. At points in that fight, he had Ball in a world of trouble. I think super featherweight suits him more than I think that's his division. I think he's found the right home for him. I think lightweight's a bit too big. I think featherweight's a little bit too small. And I think he'll run through Nova. I think he will do him in under 5 rounds. I think he'll put it on him from the off.
I hope so, mate. I really want to see Ray Ford come out and make a statement. And then we spoke about Adelaide potentially doing it if he pulls off his upset. Ray Ford then to sit there at ringside and after the fight, get in the ring if Nick Ball comes through against Goodman and say, me and you, rematch. It was razor thin the first time. Let's do it again.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. That leads us right on then to Nick Ball, the defending WBA featherweight champion, versus Sam Goodman. What's your thoughts on this fight?
Nick Ball's fighting another super bantamweight.
What again?
Shock horror. Look, let's call this for what it is. Nick Ball, and I need to make sure I put this word in front of it because I'm not seeing it enough on social media. Nick Ball is Britain's only male world champion at this current time, excluding IBO belts and interim belts for Fabio Wardley, Kakachi, Lazar Dickens, etc. He's our only male. I've seen a lot of people saying he's Britain's only world champion. No, we've got our female world champions.
Harper, Dubois, Scott
he's our only
Price.
He's our only fully fledged male world champion. And I'm a big Nick Ball fan, as we've spoken about before. I believe he comes through Sam Goodman. But I am going to have to put the asterisk of Dehenny is a super bantamweight. Goodman is now a super bantamweight. I want to see him in with someone naturally at his weight. I want to see him move towards unifications. I want to see him, properly test himself. Look, Sam Goodman can ask questions of Nick Ball. There's no denying that. But there'll come a time in the fight when Nick Ball's pitbull-like ferocity that sees him just go in 4th gear from minute 1 to minute 36 if the fight lasts that long. I don't think Goodman will be able to live with it. And then he wins the fight and we're having a conversation. Well, what did you expect from Goodman? He gave it a good go, but he's from a lighter weight.
He's not big enough.
Nick Ball needs to win this and then look towards unifications with the other big fighters in the division or the Ford rematch like we just
the Ford rematch, but I'd make Ford come up. Sorry, Ball needs to go up. Sorry. What I mean is that matchup for me is better at super feather than it is at featherweight. But again, I'm disappointed. Goodman is not a super featherweight at all. Not even with lead weights in his boots. I think he'll give Ball 2 or 3, 4 rounds maybe, and then Ball needs to turn it up and get him out of there. Ball can't be doing 12 rounds with this kid. No disrespect to Goodman, but he's not a world-class featherweight. He's a decent European level super bantam. And the thing for me, though, is in the Dehenny fight, we saw frustration from Nick Ball. I mean, he should have got disqualified, if I'm honest.
You can't.
You can't. Did he kick him or kneed him? Or did something, didn't he?
He threw a kick to the back of his knee at the end of the first round.
You can't be doing that for any reason. Any reason. But But I expect him to go through Goodman and stop him inside 6 or 7 rounds.
Yeah, look, let's also speak freely here about Nick Ball. Nick Ball should have the WBC belt as well as the WBA belt. We all know, I wasn't going to mention the Vargas fight, but I'm just looking through his recent runs.
Fight, man.
The low fight, mate, he won that. Don't get me wrong. After 6 rounds, he was losing. Let's call it what it was. That first 6 rounds, he struggled, and we were all sitting there probably going, all right, the jump ups come too soon. Fair play, Nick. You can come again. But with the knockdowns, he won that fight for me. He is de facto for me a 2-belt holder in this weight division. Let's give him the respect he deserves. I think Nick Ball comes through it comfortably. I'd like to see a stoppage and a statement, but Sam Goodman's a tough fighter. Look, let's not forget, Goodman twice was slated to fight Inoue and he's had to pull out for an eye injury, hasn't he? So that's the sort. And he was mandatory not just for 1 belt at super bantamweight, he's mandatory in 2. I think WBO and IBF, if memory serves. So he is a good caliber of fighter, but at the division below. That's the caveat, at the division below.
Yeah. I'm in complete agreement. Right then, the main event, the mismatch of all mismatches, allegedly. That's not me saying that, but I've seen a lot of shit online for this fight, and Moses Atauma is going to walk through Dillian Whyte, and Dillian Whyte's this, and Dillian Whyte's that. And then Dillian Whyte releases a little bit of training footage, and oh my God, that narrative has suddenly changed. My pick has never changed from day one. But what's your take on the fight? I know your take, but let's tell everybody else. What's your take on the fight there, Liam? Moses Atauma and Dillian Whyte.
My take on the fight is very, very similar to yours. First of all, finally, and I'm saying this before the fight happens, we're seeing Moses Atauma in there with someone who we know, yes, in the past can fight, has been at a relatively decent level, and can not only been at that level, but has to an extent competed at that level in Dillian Whyte. It's a step up that we've wanted for Moses. Look, when Dempsey McKean was announced, we said, oh yeah, the former IBF final eliminator guy, but we weren't saying, oh, massive step up, were we? Dillian Whyte, former British, former Commonwealth, former WBC silver, interim, gold, ball, everything you want to throw in it champion. Yes, he came up short against Tyson Fury, but he has been there, he's done that, he's got the T-shirt. Yes, he's got indiscretions out of the ring, but when Dillian Whyte is on it, fights to his capabilities, and, delivers his best, he's a tough fight for any heavyweight on the planet still. That is the reality. And Saturday night could be the first time that Frank Warren has made a serious mistake with one of his prospects for a long time. How often do we praise Uncle Frank for how carefully he navigates his prospects? And we've given him his dues for what he's done with Moses. This could be his first mistake for quite a while on Saturday. I remember fight week for the Fabio Wardley-Hooney fight when Dillian was pulled off the card on Thursday. He was pulled off late in that fight week. And I remember saying to you that I'd heard a few things being around it with them saying they're going to put him in with Moses. And I said then, didn't I, talking to you and Sam, that could be a mistake.
No, I can't do that.
The training footage of Dillian, like you've just said, further solidifies that claim for me. And I'm not going to be able to do a watch along with you boys, but where I'm working at the moment, there's a pub right next door. If my shift finishes in time to get me in there to watch the fight, my train home, I'm in there, mate, because I don't think it goes to 12. Look, Moses' first time going 12 rounds as well. Yes, he's knocked everyone out early. Yes, when he has been to points, it was only 4-rounders. Dillian can make a fight scrappy. He can drain Moses, and he can find a way to have a really horrible to watch points victory, I think, on Saturday night, because he can use his experience. I won't say he's going to old man Moses, but he can use his experience to take him into deep waters and ask him questions. On the flip side, Moses could answer all these questions, weather a storm, and put Dillian away in the back end of a fight, like we've seen Tyson Fury do, like we saw AJ do back in 10 years ago now. You see where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
But Moses Atauma is in with a proper fighter on Saturday night. People that want to use the Tete fight as where Dillian Whyte is up to now, by Dillian's own admission, he trained for 3 weeks. He arrived in Gibraltar 12 hours before the weigh-in. I mean, he doesn't have to make weight, but you see my point. It wasn't counterintuitive to a good fight.
He didn't care.
He can't this time. He's already in Saudi. he's coming to shut a lot of people up and to show that he's still a contender at definitely domestic level. Look, let's not jump away with world level yet, but on the domestic playing front, Dillian Whyte's out to prove he's still a contender on Saturday.
Absolutely, and I'll give you two names in Atoma's record, and I'll tell you why they're relevant. So you've got Dovzbichenko,
yep,
and then the fight after that was the Espindola.
Yep.
Right. He went points both times, now albeit 4-rounders. But what I saw in both of those fights is when it wasn't going his way, Moses Tama we're talking about now, he started to get frustrated, but you could see that he was getting frustrated. He was getting pissed with himself that stuff wasn't working, stuff that he tried and expected to work wasn't working. And luckily, he'd got far enough in front by round 3 that when it started to take hold of him, his frustration, and get into his psyche, the fight was over and he'd won the fight, fairly comfortably, 3-1 or whatever. But if he can't get rid of Dillian Whyte in the first 3 or 4 rounds, like people are saying he will do, and just go straight over him, then Dillian Whyte will grab hold of him, lean on him. He's as big as him, if not bigger.
Bigger. I think he'll be heavier.
It'll be heavier. I think he'll be bigger and taller. Dillian Whyte, right, has only ever been beaten up by the best of the best at the time. So when he lost against Joshua the first time, when Joshua beat him, Joshua was on the come up. It was the main guy. Tyson Fury was the main guy. His losses have never really been. He's never been beat by a prospect, right? But he's never had to be in this situation before. Now, because we spoke, and I think I've said it on camera as well. I picked Dillian Whyte from the second this fight was made.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm sticking with that pick. And the reason being, I just think that Dillian Whyte is too seasoned, right, too clever. And I think Dillian has sold us all wolf tickets in the lead up to this fight, right? As you said, everybody's looking at the Tete fight and Dillian Whyte's never really been chiseled, has he? He's never had a body like Joshua, but he looks lean. He looks fit. He's throwing fast combinations. Dillian Whyte can box, right? He just chooses to brawl. But what I believe is going to win Dillian Whyte this fight is experience. I think he's going to use his acumen. I think he's going to use his weight. I think he's going to tuck up for the first 3 or 4 rounds. He's going to let Moses get his power bar down to like 60%, and then Dillian will push. Because we know that Dillian can do 12 hard rounds. To go nearly 12 rounds with Chisora, right, how he did, takes a lot. Usyk was blowing out of his ass when he fought Chisora. People underestimate how tough Derek Chisora is, right? I'd have preferred to see Chisora versus Tama, if I'm honest, than Whyte, because I think that would have been a more exciting fight, because Chisora will just go balls to the wall, whereas Dillian Whyte will do that in phases of the fight, but not just uncalculated. It'll be very calculated risks that Dillian Whyte. I think Dillian Whyte's going to stop Moses Atama late. I think that he's going to tuck up, take his best, and then he'll take over. And I see Dillian Whyte between rounds 8 and 10 stopping Moses Atama. I think he'll get pulled out by his corner. I don't think he'll knock him out. I think Moses Atama's going to blow a gasket. He's not going to be able to knock out, and his corner are going to pull him out between rounds 8 and 10.
Mate, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't at all surprise me. And for anyone watching, there's receipts from when this fight was made of Jay saying within about 10 minutes of the announcement this prediction. So he's standing on, as he always does.
Yeah, so you can hammer me. You can hammer me for knowing fuck all for months before the fight.
Oh, yeah.
If the result doesn't come off. But look, I'm notorious for having random picks, but I'll stick by my pick. I'm not just doing it to go against the grain. I just think it's too soon for Moses Atama.
Yeah, mate, I can't disagree. And I've seen, as I've said before, I've seen 3 of Moses' fights. So I was at his debut, which lasted a handful of seconds, and you were like, shit, okay, this kid's still young and he's got power. I was at the Doborenchenko fight where he apparently injured his hand or whatever he did, but there was signs of frustration there. And then I was at the Wack fight, which at the time was his step up until Wack walked in a ring with 5 guys and Nando's and a Chinese and kind of just... wasn't
Marius Vac.
Wasn't the Marius Wackler. Fought Dillian White, for example, out in Saudi on the Joshua Ruiz card. That's just come to me whilst we're talking. Everything you said, mate, I can see happening. And I wouldn't at all be surprised if Dillian plays possum, allows Moses to tire himself out, and then finds a way to get a finish or win on points. I just think there's a way. The way this fight goes is Dillian will have his moments. I think we're going to see Moses on the floor in the first 4 or 5 rounds, but he's going to come back and find a way to win, either via points or a late stoppage himself. I think it's going to be his toughest test by an absolute mile. Dillian's going to give it him all. I do think we're going to see Moses down. I will say that much, but I think he'll come through and find a way to win. I just wonder if down the stretch, Moses being the younger fighter that's as active as he is, Dillian's going to have to fight. Even when he's playing possum, he's going to have everything about him, isn't he? He's not going to be able to switch off for a second.
No.
Is he, after how long he's been inactive and only the Tete fight, is he going to be able to stay at that level of focus for 36
like
minutes?
he did with Parker? Do you remember when he got fatigued and got clipped towards the end?
He got dropped twice, didn't he, by Parker at the end?
Yeah, he'd have got stopped. If that fight had gone on, White would have lost that fight by stopping.
Another 30 seconds, he lost to Parker. And Oscar Rivas, the fight after that, he started strong. In the 9th round, he got clipped. Look, Dillian is notorious for in the back end of fights, when they're going the distance, getting clipped, getting down. Against both Parker and Rivas, he won. I know before anyone says he did win them fights, but Moses Itauma, from what I've seen, is definitely a harder puncher than Rivas, and you could argue that Parker is more accumulative than one punch knockout, couldn't you? He does his damage over rounds and rounds. So, look, I'm going to favour the younger, fresher fighter to come through a firefight, but it would not at all surprise me if White pulls it off, because Dillian White has been written off by everyone. I mean, even Dev Sahini has gone from saying that Moses Itauma is looking to make a statement to saying Dillian White looks dangerous. And if company man Dev is getting on the fence, then you know that actually we've got a proper fight here.
Yeah. But it's intriguing. It's intrigued me more the closer it's got.
Yeah.
But I'm sticking with my pick. I will just say before we finish on boxing that great news this week came out that Ben Shalom has come out of his treehouse in the middle of the Amazon where he's been hiding over the past couple of weeks. And Boxer have finally announced they have a television partnership / deal with the BBC. Now, we heard this weeks ago. There were rumblings that this deal was being negotiated in the background, and we were very dismissive. But now that we've seen the sort of particulars of the deal, this could actually be a very, very good deal for Boxer. Now, the BBC aren't going to give them that much money, so the production will be different. But we're going to see boxing on terrestrial television, apparently, I don't know how true this is, in the lead up to Match of the Day. Now, if they can do that and have boxing on a Saturday night at 9, 10 o'clock, unless you put Match of the Day on at 12, it doesn't really work. So they're probably going to have to change the timings, or we're going to have early main events. But if they can have big fights between 9 and 10 p.m. on a Saturday night on terrestrial TV, they will get numbers.
I agree with you, but straight away I'm going to throw a spanner in that. So the statement from BBC and Boxer says that this is going to be on BBC Two, BBC Three, or iPlayer.
So it's Match of the Day. Lead up to Match of the Day, then, is it?
Is Match of the Day suddenly not a BBC one? You know, look, there could be a way it happens, but straight away the flaw in that is Match of the Day suddenly not BBC's flagship. Look, is it good that we know where Boxer stands? Absolutely, It's good. However, there's some more things we need to know. So the first one is apparently they're only going to do 2 shows the rest of this year. The one that's been rumoured for Birmingham on the 27th of September to be headlined by Clark and TKV for the British, and apparently Ben is lobbying the Commonwealth. See where he gets with that for the heavyweight.
Isn't Dave Allen fighting Price for that one? What's his name? That's for the Commonwealth. That's for the Commonwealth.
Makhmudov doesn't qualify because he's Canadian. He can't be a Russian athlete.
I thought right. Well, yeah, but Canada's part of Commonwealth.
Yeah, I know, but from something I've seen during the week, they're trying to get the Commonwealth on that as well. And then the other fight they want to do is in December. So is it good that they've got this deal? Absolutely, but is only seeing boxing from Boxer twice in the remainder of this year good enough? Absolutely not. Look, the next thing we need to know is what Boxer fighters are going to stay. So Callum Simpson confirmed on TalkSport last night
Brilliant.
that he's staying put. And as we said this morning, you don't get a lot of loyalty in life, never mind boxing anymore. But Callum Simpson's career has been made by the partner. It's great to see that loyalty rewarded. Eddie Hearn is come on record and said, because he's obviously been talking to fighters, that Ben Whittaker, Fraser Clark are going to feature on the first card. So they're looking like they're going to stay, at least in the short term. Look, there's going to be some collateral, and there already has. Joshua Boatsi's gone. He's joined Queensbury. Adam Azim was front and centre at the Bournemouth card the other week. The only thing that was missing was Adam Azim being announced on that Bournemouth card. He was literally, mate, he was in the promoter's seat. I mean, Frank Warren wasn't in Bournemouth, but he was dead centre of the ring.
He's going to Queensbury, isn't he? He basically said it. He said everything but announced.
The question is, sorry, mate, who does he keep out of... I don't think he keeps either Caroline Dubois or Lauren Price.
I think he'll keep Price. I don't think Dubois. I think Dubois.
Well, I'll tell you how he keeps Price. If that fight with Michaela Mayer goes on the top rank card, it's being spoken about for October time.
Yeah.
And then that's a co-pro, isn't it? So then, look, then he doesn't have to worry about getting her out. The cynical side, one less fight. But you get what I mean. Look, that might be the keep it. Is it good that we're going to get boxing back on terrestrial TV? Yes, of course it is. I mean, I know, I remember watching Joe Calzaghe, Jeff Lacey. I remember recording and watching when I was younger. The morning after that was on ITV, wasn't it? David Hay obviously used to fight on BBC. Look, terrestrial TV and boxing is synonymous. It goes hand in hand.
Ben Eubank, I watched.
Nigel Benn, Gerald McLennan. There's all these fights.
Lennox
Michael
Lewis,
Watson.
they were all on BBC and ITV.
There's nothing. Look, we talk about Channel 5 all the time, and we, Wasserman only do Friday nights, and it can't come on TV till 11 o'clock. But that's terrestrial TV, and regardless of the Sowland brothers caressing their figures slightly to make it more popular than flipping the coronation of the last king was, for God's sake, every time they have a fight, at least there's eyeballs on it on terrestrial TV. That's where we're at. My only concern is BBC were very keen to state that these fights could also only appear online. So what do they deem worthy enough to put on their BBC 2 or BBC 3 channel, and what do they only put online? Because look, yes, everyone can access the app and the website these days, but are you going to want to go on the BBC website and have to work out if you can cast it to your TV, etc., to watch it? What you want is it there. As soon as you turn your BBC 2 on, you want it there in front of you. And I just wonder how that's going to work, because Ben doesn't have a lot of star power to play with. The law of BBC is only going to get him so far. He actually needs the fighters to back him up as well.
Yeah, I hope. Look, I know we take piss out of Ben on here, and we've had a dig, but look, he came in. He's ruffled the feathers of the big boys. He's been bullied and baited by them, and he's not. His marketing has been shocking again. Ben, if you need help, myself and Liam are both very, very, very versed in marketing, and will happily help. I'll happily help Boxer for free, man. I'd love to be involved in their marketing, but on a serious note, he's sort of stumbled and bumbled his way through, but he's come through the other end. He's negotiated himself a deal. He's retaining some of his fighters. Good luck to him. I'm excited for the future with Boxer. I'm really excited.
Sorry, mate, just quickly. I agree with you. I am excited to see, but now, look, Callum Simpson, that should be the domino effect. That's now we find out which fighters. If this time in 2 weeks, we don't have that September 27th card confirmed, we don't know what other fighters are staying, then again, the question is going to start coming back. The best thing for Ben Shalom to do now is confirm his roster. Do it next week. There's only a card in Saudi. There's eyeballs there, but there's nothing domestically going on. You've got a nice, clean run to get an announcement this week.
Well, he needs to get himself back out to places. He needs to be on the likes of IFL TV and, all the big boys, No Punches Pulled and Straight Talk. He needs to be coming on all these shows and not hiding in the shadows. Let people know where you are, Ben, and what's going on. I think that would help him massively. And, make some announcements or, announce some retentions. We're negotiating Price's unification. We're negotiating Caroline's unification. Azim, I'd like to see him put Azim in check and say, Adam Azim's going nowhere. Adam Azim's under a contract with myself. The only way he'll be leaving is if Frank pays me out. And I'm negotiating for Azim to fight so-and-so, Smith or whoever, So we need more from you, Ben. You can't just drip feed us a little bit and you expect that to keep the masses happy, because for me, your stable's falling apart at the moment until we get told it's not. And Callum Simpson been announcing that he's staying, fantastic news, but there's some big fighters out there that are sort of in limbo. Buatsi jumped ship, but Buatsi's known for that. He did it at Matchroom, and you know what I mean? Buatsi's got no loyalty anywhere. Buatsi's only, and I get, you've got to be selfish to a degree, but I would have liked to have seen Buatsi stick around and give Ben, Ben gave him an opportunity because, Eddie didn't really want him, did he? And he didn't leave amicably, did he? So,
Well, I'm sure you've seen the quote from Buatsi when he signed for Sky coming back around this week of, my last fight with Matchroom, obviously it was on the Zone. He said, I wonder how many people watched it on that app. Where's he ended up again? What platform do Queensbury's fights go on?
That app.
That app that now no longer has a Sky channel. Look, Buatsi's fighting Zach Parker, which, look, coming off of a loss is a fair enough fight, but let's see what's going to happen with Buatsi. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked.
I will just say one thing. Thanks very much, DAZN, for giving me a 12-month annual subscription for free. Fantastic. So I cancelled my monthly subscription. Do you remember other week I cancelled it? Yeah. And I bought the Super Saver, whatever it was. I think it's 119 quid.
Yeah, something like that.
It's on. It's I haven't paid for it. Don't know why I haven't paid for it, because they retain my card details. But yeah, I owe DAZN £119. But yeah, sue me for it, bitch. But yeah, it just I expected it to just come out of my bank on the first of the month, like it did. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that, DAZN. Anyway, moving on. We'll do a brief touch on Chicago. UFC 319 is upon us. One of the most highly anticipated matches at middleweight is taking place in the main event. But I'll go through the card from the curtain jerker, Liam. We'll do a couple of minutes on each one. Give us your thoughts and your predictions, please. So the curtain jerker sees Tim Elliott facing Kai Asakura, who I think he came into the UFC under a big banner. I think he got a title shot in his debut, didn't he, against Pantoja, and we know how that went. Pantoja is the man. But he's facing off against Tim Elliott, who's got a record of 21-13-1. Tim Elliott has always sort of lost at the very top level, but is top 10 for me. I think if Mohamed Mokaev hadn't been sort of saved by the hooter, then he would have had to tap to that leg lock because he'd hyperextended his knee. What's your thoughts on Asakura versus Elliott in the flyweight division?
We don't very often get fights like this from Dana unless it's a fighter he's trying to build up either for ranking purposes
or get rid of.
Yeah, commercial value or get rid of. But look, Asakura, we knew when the Pantoja fight was made, it was... Look, did he deserve the opportunity? Of course he did because of what he'd done across other promotions. But to move in and get that as your first fight in the UFC is a big ask. Tim Elliott, on a pay-per-view, the first fight, 3 a.m. UK time, what's that, 9 o'clock stateside. It's being made, isn't it, for him to make a statement. And look, he'll win on points. I don't think we'll see a stoppage or a submission, but I think Asakura wins on points in that one.
Yeah, I have to agree. British interest in the next one. We have the Killer Gorilla, Jared Cannonier, career of 18-8. Against MVP Michael Venom Page, who is now 23-3, coming off a career best, not a career best, but a UFC best win in his last performance against Shara Bullet. That fight for me has aged well because a lot of people said that Shara Bullet was all hype, but he proved that he wasn't by getting a win in his very next fight. What's your thoughts on Cannonier versus MVP, and who do you think is going to win that one, Liam?
I worry about MVP going in against Cannonier. Cannonier's size, bearing in mind his MVP career welterweight, if we're being honest.
You're saying exactly what I've just said to Sam.
Yeah, that's what worries me, the size. Look, always back the Brit. I hope he gets it done, but Cannonier can be one awkward fucker to fight.
He's fought at heavyweight, for fuck's sake. He's fought at heavyweight.
But mate, he knows a way to just lean on you for 15 minutes. Remember, 3-round fight. It's not a 5-round fight. All he needs to do for 15 minutes is lean on MVP, be effective, do enough work, and he'll take a 30-27, a 29-28. It's up to Venom Page to use his size, the fact he's a taller fighter, to use his reach advantage, keep the fight at range, and pick Cannonier off. Don't let it become tight.
That's his only way of winning for me. He can't grapple with Cannonier. He'll get ragdolled.
My honest prediction is I think Cannonier wins it 29-28, but I hope I'm wrong.
I'm going to go the other way. I think that MVP is quick enough, fleet of foot, to get in and out.
I hope so.
A bit like Adesanya did. Adesanya had a comfortable matchup really against Cannonier, didn't he? Sort of peppered him for 5 rounds. But as I said to Sam in our prediction video that preceded this one, is I'm worried that Cannonier is just too big. He's a natural 205er, really.
Yeah.
Very similar to Rumble. You know, comfortable at 205, 185 and 170. But if MVP can stay at range, then he'll do what MVP does. He'll just outpoint him. So I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go 29-28 for MVP.
Look, mate, I hope MVP does it. I hope, that fleet of foot, that speed is still there. But all it takes, look, Cannonier gets the fight to ground or gets on top of MVP in the first minute of the rounds. I don't see him being able to do anything to change the position, if that makes sense. That's my biggest worry. I think if MVP gets in a bad place, that's him done for 5 minutes. And as we said, in a 15-minute fight, if you have 5 minutes bad, then you're chasing your tail, then you make mistakes, then the big guy, how many times do you see it? A big guy then is able to just use his size and ragdoll to an extent an opponent. That's what I don't want to see happen. But
fingers crossed. I think we'll see a good fight either way. I think we're in for a decent fight, unless we get Tyron Woodley versus Wonderboy, where the striker's chasing the point fighter and it sort of cancels it out a bit. But anyway, welterweight division next, we've got the Hands of Steel, Jeff Neal, facing off against Carlos Prates. Now, I have not checked, but isn't Prates coming off a loss? Who beat him last? Who were it?
I'm just looking now.
I thought it was Pfeiffer, but it wasn't. It was
he last lost to Ian Gary.
That's it. Sam said Ian Gary. Yeah. But Jeff Neal, for me, I don't want to say he's a one-trick pony, but similar to Cannonier, he relies on his power a lot. And Prates is skilled, man. He just come up against a better striker in Ian Gary. And we saw what Gary did against Shavkat. For me, could have won that fight.
I thought he had Shavkat in that last round.
I did myself, but it is what it is. But what's your take on Prates versus Neal?
Look, Prates and Neal were meant to fight in April. Neal was injured, which is how we ended up with the Ian Gary Prates fight. That was, as much as he was out, he went in with a better striker that night and was beaten to the punch, to kick all night. He was also went from fighting Jeff Neal to at 4 weeks' notice.
Who's very stationary and very
Ian
orthodox.
Gary. So, do I still think Ian Gary would have won that fight if Prates had a full training camp? Of course I do, but I think it may have been closer. Jeff Neal, as you've just said, mate, very one-dimensional. You know what you're going to get. We could probably predict how the 15 minutes from Jeff Neal, if it goes that far, are going to look right now. And that's not being disrespectful. That's just because he's a very rhythm fighter. He fights in the same way, whether it's going his way or not going his way. He's not a fighter that can make changes on the fly. I think this could be the fight on the pay-per-view where anyone in the UK is probably going to get themselves a cup of tea or something just to keep themselves awake. I don't see this being a very entertaining fight, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, mate.
I agree. Who do you think is going to win? Do you think Prates edges it?
Go with the younger, hopefully fresher fighter, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Next fight for me sees Arlaron, the Miracle Man Murphy. That is the only thing that I've got in common with Lerone Murphy is the fact that we're both called. Surname is Murphy. if anyone's seen my fighting skills or lack thereof, that's where the comparisons end.
I heard Lerone based it off of you, mate. So is that not true?
Well, I don't like saying that. You know, I believe he called. I think he thanked me, and he calls me God. So yeah, he thanked God, and but no, in all seriousness, Lerone the Miracle Man Murphy, he's welcoming Aaron Pico to the UFC. Now talk about frying pan to the fire. He was meant to fight Evloev, was he first, and that fell off.
Yeah.
So they've given him Lerone Murphy, who is unbeaten. I think he drew his debut in the UFC, I want to say. But other than that, he's unbeaten. And he was fairly comfortable for me against, what's he called? The knockout merchant. Bloody hell. Jeremy Stevens beat him, didn't he?
Jeremy Stevens beat him. Hold on.
What's his flipping name?
Josh Emmett.
There we go. Josh Emmett. I think it was fairly comfortable against Josh Emmett. He's beaten Dan Ige as well. Look, Aaron Pico turned over with a massive fanfare, and he's got the brand, and he's a matador, and he rides wild horses, and he was a Division 1 All-American, and blah, 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 blah. Pretty sure he got knocked out in his Bellator debut, did he not?
Yes, he did.
Got absolutely flatlined in his Bellator debut, didn't he? And has been knocked out a couple of times since. Medicamp change. He's gone to Jackson Wink, I believe, to where John Jones has been, and I think he's had wins and losses under them. But for me, recently, the UFC are trying to make a point. They did it with Pitbull. They did it with Ben Askren. Shout out Ben Askren, by the way. He ended up back in hospital, but I think he is on the mend. He came over as part of the Mighty Mouse exchange, and he got Robbie Lawler in his first fight, who was only 2 or 3 fights removed from being the welterweight champion. Pitbull got Ige, did he? Was it Ige he got in his?
I think it was Ige first for Pitbull. Yeah.
And here we see Aaron Pico. Who's the other one? Patchy Mix. Patchy Mix he lost his first fight, didn't he? So yeah, are they trying to prove that they're the better organisation, or is it just a case of, well, if you're that good, is such and such for you? It just feels to me like the matchmakers are sort of trying to prove that they are the better, to give them a loss for the first fight, or are they just seeing if they are that good?
I mean, the cynicism that exists in both of us within fight sports, I can understand that logic, and obviously you've got the track record there because we just reeled off they've all lost their first fights. Let's go for the more glass half full.
Didn't, by the way. Askren didn't, but it was controversial, wasn't it? The Bulldog.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that was not Herb Dean's finest hour, shall we say?
No.
But point still stands. I'm going to go with the glass half full rather than glass half empty approach. It's, you think you're this good? Well, let's give you one of the best contenders that has earned his stripes in our organisation. And look, you know what I love about Lerone Murphy? How excited he is. How excited is Lerone Murphy to have this fight? I think he's posting on his socials 4 or 5 times a day. And you know it's him because he does it as a video with the phone in his hand. You can't say that's a PA team. This kid, I say kid, he's 34, I think, Murphy, but he is just excited to be, I'm young, co-main event on a UFC pay-per-view. This is his opportunity. The featherweight division is one of the most intriguing around at the moment because we don't know fully what's going on at the top end for a number of different reasons.
Volk's the champion. Volk's the champion, isn't he?
Volk's the champ now.
Yeah.
Which is, look, Lerone Murphy, Volk, Jesus.
It's a fight. It's a good fight.
Mate, Volk's popular enough in the UK. Look, let's not get carried away. I think Lerone Murphy makes one of the biggest statements of his career.
I do.
Saturday night, Sunday morning for us. Josh Emmett was impressive because we spoke about he needs to keep away from the left hands. Can he do it? It's not a 15-minute fight. Can he do it for 25 minutes? I think Josh Emmett forgot he had a left hand. He was unable to throw it that little throughout those 25 minutes. Yeah. So, and Lerone Murphy, look, Pico isn't known as being an offensive fighter, is he? He does a lot of defensive wrestling and he likes to have the pressure come onto him. That's perfect for Lerone. If Lerone's able to pour himself onto Pico, that's how he gets himself into a position. I want to see Lerone go for a stoppage just to really make that statement and to look at Dana ringside and go, call me for Volk. But the reality is, that's what you want. But the reality is, even a 30-27 where he, beats Pico for 15 minutes from pillar to post will make the statement, won't it?
Absolutely. Look, I'm not dismissing Aaron Pico, and I know we had a bit of a laugh there, but I think the only chance, Pico, one of the only chances, or his best chance, is getting his hands clasped together round Larone's waist, because Larone is not the best on his back. Not that anybody's fantastic off the back, but his ground game's not exceptional. And Pico's is not that great, but his wrestling is fucking fantastic. And I think if Larone can keep his hips away and not let him get his hands clasped together and take him down, then I think he will just pop shot him all night. I think it'll be fairly comfortable for Lerone. I think we'll see a lot of teep kicks, a lot of kicks to the stomach, and I think he'll drill him. I think we will see either a stoppage or a 30-27. I don't think this is going to be a close fight. I think I give Pico a puncher's chance in this fight.
I completely agree with you. Lerone Murphy's such a versatile and well-varied striker with his hands and with his feet. I'm not going to say he decides the narrative of this fight, but he does. Lerone Murphy can make this a kickboxing fight or a boxing fight. He can do what he wants in there for me, and I just see him getting a very convincing and impressive victory.
I do, and then, he's virtually deserving of a world title shot for me. I think it would be one more, maybe. Someone like a Brian Ortega or I think Lopez has got a fight, hasn't he? But, I mean, who else does he fight? I mean, he's beat Emmett, he's beat Ige, he's then beat Pico. He's ranked 6, is he? Have a look, Statman.
He's 6.
Where's he ranked? Because there'll only be what? Volk, Lopez, Holloway. Is Holloway ranked at 145 still? Or is he now at 155? But featherweight's hot, but I just think Lerone is maybe deserving of a title shot after one more win, but who does he fight next?
Here we go. So it is Volk, Mazava Evolve is number 1. Evloev, sorry. Yeah. Lopez is 2. Yair Rodriguez 3. Brian Ortega 4. Arnold Allen 5. Lerone 6. Aljamain Sterling at 7.
So you make Allen versus Murphy then, because Lopez
Ipswich
is
against
fighting
Manchester UK matchup.
So Lopez is fighting John Silver. I think Volk's the champion. Evloev is probably going to get Volk next. So do you get what I mean? He's not going to want to fight down, really. He's already fighting down by fighting Pico. No disrespect to Pico. But...
I wouldn't at all be surprised if we get Lerone Murphy and Josh Emmett UFC London main event next year.
Josh Emmett? He's just beat Josh Emmett.
Lopez.
Diego Lopez. If he beats John Silver.
If he beats Silver, I think we get that. Sorry, Emmett's in my head because I'm literally staring at the rankings and that's the name I want. I think we get Diego Lopez and Murphy in London main event next year.
As a number 1 contender fight.
As a number 1, yeah. I think Volk is probably going to fight Yair Rodriguez again next. I think that just something in my head tells me that's what we're going to see next for Volk. And then got that as number 1.
They fought, aren't they? Oh, we're going to say T-City, but T-City's fought him. They had that shoulder thing, didn't they? They had where Ortega's shoulder popped out.
T-City's heart was broken twice by him, wasn't it?
Yeah, and once by Tracy Cortez. But anyway.
Main
event time. I have flipped and flopped with this fight, but we've got Dricus du Plessis defending his middleweight UFC World Championship against Khamzat Chimaev, the unbeaten. They're both unbeaten in the UFC. But I can't believe I'm going to say this. I think that Dricus du Plessis stops Khamzat Chimaev. I think he beats him.
And here was me hoping to have the thunder of saying that because I...
Sorry, man.
I completely agree with you. Look, no, don't apologise, mate. Look, we should... Dricus du Plessis just doesn't know...
Fucking awesome, man.
Quit. He is awesome.
And he looks
What he done against Adesanya...
He looks crap. His technique's fucking shocking. But
he was losing to Izzy in Perth. Let's call it for what it was. He was losing the second fight with Izzy in Perth. And I said at the start of the 4th rounds, and it was just me and Sam doing that watch along. I said to Sam, Dricus is here. or is admitting the finish. And within 90 seconds, Izzy was finished.
Yeah.
He just seems to know when to turn the switch. He never looks, even when he, beat Strickland quite relatively comfortably, you were never looking at that fight going, I really like the way Dricus looks here. He looks...
his technique's awful.
I'm going to watch this back in the morning and take notes on this guy. You're never going to do that with Duplessis. However, how unorthodox he is and ungamely and unnatural he looks is what makes him hard to beat. Izzy said it himself, didn't he? After
Can't train for it. Can't train for it.
Can't train for it. And what can you do with Khamzat Chimaev? You can train for Chimaev. You know what you're going to get. You know how he's going to go about doing it. And look, Khamzat Chimaev is never going to change. And don't get me wrong, he is one of the best pound for pound at what he does. Not just at middleweight, pound for pound, he's one of the best at what he does. However, I'm never going to write off Dricus again. I'm never going to do it because I've written off the rematch. I just think I can envisage something like he has a really bad second round where he's on his back for most of the second round and it's looking like he's going to get stopped.
And then they'll stop him in third.
And he'll come out and do it in third. I can see that happening.
Do you know what I said to Sam earlier? And I really could see this, but I could see Khamzat doing what Khamzat does in the first round, just consistently going for takedowns, getting a takedown.
Yep.
Dricus is trying to turn in and he's defending, answering the phone, defending his neck, etc. Come out for the second round. Very similar. Khamzat's got his hands clasped and they're fighting for position, jocks for position, etc. A lot of scrambles. And then as Khamzat's cardio bar drops down and his takedowns are not as precise, I could see something similar to when Masvidal knocked out Askren. Not running across the ring and doing a flying knee, but Khamzat shoots from way out, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And they normally throw the hips back to avoid getting taken down. I think when the takedowns become slower, Dricus is going to stop going back and he's going to come forward because Khamzat expects you to go back, either back to the cage and widen your legs and get your base strong and have your hips back, or you scramble far enough away to be able to fall down with your hips forward and avoid the takedown. I think at some point, Khamzat will just go because he has his head down, and we might see a knee or an uppercut. Do you remember when Derek Lewis knocked out Curtis Blades?
Yes. Oh my God.
Do you remember when he went for the takedown and you're just like, whack? I've got a feeling something like that's going to happen. I just don't think Khamzat's big enough at 185 for someone like Dricus.
That Derek Lewis knockout you heard even more because it was during COVID times where you had no one in there. So you heard the knee connecting and then the way he hit the... mate, it's still every time someone... I don't even need to see it, just someone mentioning that. You know what I mean? We've all got those. That is one of those.
Mine's Cowboy when he head kick knocked out... there's a video of my little girl and she goes, yes, Cowboy wins. But do you remember he knocked out... It wasn't Matt Brown. Oh, was it Matt Brown? He knocked Matt Brown out, wasn't it?
It was Matt Brown with a head kick.
Yeah.
But back to this. Sorry. Back to this fight. I completely agree with you, mate. It's very weird because of how good Khamzat is that we're going to criticize what he does, but he telegraphs his takedowns. You can almost tell. So you'll know what I mean when I say this. The way he sets his stance before the clapper goes to start a round, you can tell if he's going to come out and move around for the first 30 seconds, if he's going to look to shoot straight away. It's very telegraphed. Look, it's effective. Don't get me wrong. Dricus is going to have to do something no one else has really been able to do. I mean, look at the state with Rob Whittaker after he went in with Khamzat. That was, we are Rob Whittaker lovers, if we include Sam as well. And to see that happen to Rob, none of us enjoyed. But
it means we enjoy watching Robert Whittaker, not that we are all lovers as such. We're not his harem.
Speak for yourself, mate. I mean, come on.
I'm available, Rob.
I just think Dricus has that unpredictability about him.
Special, man. He's special.
Yeah, look, and he does, he, as he says all the time, he goes out and he fights for all Afrikaans. He goes out not just for South Africa, he does it for the continent of Africa. And he wears that responsibility and he wears that burden so well. And it's not, he knows he's going in as an underdog. I don't think I can recall a time that Dricus has been a favourite in a fight in the last 3 or 4 years. And I'm not being dismissive. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
But he's proved us wrong. Not just us. the MMA fraternity wrong time and time again. And I just think Khamzat is too one-dimensional. He is too unorthodox. He's going to do something crazy, and he's going to stop him to keep his belt.
And I agree. I think 3 or 4 rounds. I don't think we're going to see 5 rounds. I think Khamzat's best chance is getting Dricus out of there in the first round. But I think once his power bar drops below 80%, we know that Dricus can do it hard for 5 rounds. I don't believe, and I think Sam said this, I don't think Khamzat's got 5-minute rounds at 80% in him. I don't think he's got enough after round 2. A bit like Conor McGregor. Conor's like that. Conor's brilliant for 2 rounds. He's probably one of the best 2-round fighters in the game. But after that, he's pretty average once his gas has gone. And I think those takedowns, like you say, they become predictable. They are telegraphed. I think once he starts becoming predictable, that's when DDP will take over.
Yeah. Look, Khamzat Chimaev, you have to be an MMA purist to enjoy the way he fights. That's the reality. And we appreciate the way he fights. However, and yes, you can make the argument Khabib never needed to evolve because he was so good at what he done. But however, with Khamzat, he's not quite on Khabib's level, and you've always wanted to see him maybe show a few variations.
Khabib would take more chances. He'd fight his way in with feints and twitching, and he'd fight his way in, and then he'd get hold of him, and then he would chain wrestle. Khamzat just flies for the legs or the waist. It's a different style. I get the similarities, the Russian, Dagestani, etc., and the wrestling heavy base, but Khamzat. Yeah, it's not good to. It's not good to watch for the masses.
No, it's not. And you then think about that. I say Khamzat becoming the middleweight champion. He can't fight in certain places. He goes missing for 9 of the 12 months of the year. We're then going to get back to unfortunately having a stagnant division.
They don't want him. They don't need him champion. How ironic is it that what made Khamzat a household name was him fighting twice in a week? To the second his brand is up there, he fights once a year at best. I mean, I know he's had illnesses and
there's external factors to that.
Sam, he's got visa issues and issues in his home country, but I think he's sorted that out now with Trump, and he did say something on his own social media. But Sam mentioned this earlier. I've gone blank now. Sam mentioned the fact that what did he say about Khamzat? Oh, there's talks of him retiring if he wins. And I could see that. I could see him saying, yeah, I've done it. Clock the game. See ya. I smash everybody. Bye. And dropping the belt.
Khamzat isn't in this game because he loves it, if that makes sense. He's not in this game. Khamzat does not care if he's loved, loathed, liked.
No, he just wants the most money, the belts, and then he's done.
Mate, he doesn't even care if Dana, Hunter, and the UFC Corp like him. That's literally his attitude. He just turns up to, I smash everybody, and that's all he's there for. I wouldn't be at all surprised if win or lose, we don't see Khamzat again.
You reckon? Do you think he's going to retire then at weekend, regardless of the result?
I think I can see him, especially if he loses. I can't see him allowing himself to go round again, because unless it's a tight, contentious fight, we don't see immediate rematches in the UFC, and we don't normally see a fight, then a rematch as well, if that makes sense. He's going to be looking at another 18, 24 months, which in...
Yeah, he's not going to want to do that.
Which in Khamzat's world could be 3-4 years. No, that's because of the way he works and how he fights. I just don't see him wanting to do it again if he loses. Like, he sees... he saw the Robert Whittaker fight as the final person he needed to smash up to get this opportunity. We should have seen it earlier this year. I mean, we're getting it in August. We should have had it the first quarter of the year. But, yeah. Look, Khamzat Chimaev has all the tools to become the UFC champion, but nobody can figure out the most unorthodox fighter possibly that the UFC has seen in quite some time in Dricus, and I think Dricus will keep hold of the belt.
I do. Quick question then before we go. So Dricus du Plessis wins on Saturday night. Do we see him move up to 205, or do you think he'll continue at 185? Because there isn't that many people left at 185. He will. Is it Imavov maybe? Would be
Imavov is probably the one. Dricus has also made noises about not wanting to fight for much longer. Okay. I don't think he retires after this one. I think he wins with a statement on Saturday, and he'll say in his interview, "I want 205." His way of retiring is to go in up to 205 and winning the belt up there. I think that's how I see it going for Dricus. He said he doesn't want to do this forever. He wants to get home and enjoy the money he's made and do bits with his community, etc. I think he'll win on Saturday. Dana, give me the shot at 205, double champ, and then we'll see him.
And I mean, realistically, that they could do that fight December. I think we've got October. I think Pereira Ankalaev 2.
You've got 2 in October. You've got October's 2 pay-per-views, Ankalaev, Pereira 2, and then obviously Big Tom and Cyril.
So you could potentially do it first quarter of next year, maybe not back end. Depend how if Ankalaev goes out there and starches Pereira, which could happen, or vice versa, then we could see that matchup this year, but certainly first quarter.
You need Ankalaev, or Pereira to come out and win early in October, because UFC need their December pay-per-view to have a good headline. The last 2 years, we've ended up with Leon Edwards and Colby. Look, Colby made that fight, that reaction, made that fight what it was by how negative he was for 25 minutes. And then obviously we had the Pantoja fight, yes, at the last minute, be the headline for the one in 2024.
No one wants to see those.
Just don't do it. Look, the other end to go is Tom Aspinall gets another first round victory and he gets the headline, but we know Tom wants a homecoming. The UFC need a big Christmas pay-per-view, and the best way to do it would be Dricus and the winner of Ankalaev Pereira for me.
Fingers crossed then, mate. Fingers crossed. But are you doing a watch-along on Saturday for the UFC, or are you...
I need to see what shifts I'm on and what I'm doing Sunday. If I can, and I'm not starting too early on Sunday, then yes.
Okay, well, look, either or, you will see myself and Liam throughout the week. We'll be doing No Punches Pulled on Tuesday over on SW Fight Hub. There will be prediction shows, shorts. So if you aren't following Jay's Fight Talk, why not? Jump across and follow at LT's Sweet Boxing Science over on YouTube. That is the home of Liam's Fight Night Picks and many other boxing and MMA content. So as I said, if you're not, get following at LT's Sweet Boxing Science. Liam, thank you very much for a short notice, impromptu, straight talk. We had to get it in. It is fight week. I am super excited. So thank you for everybody that's joined, interacted and watched. Liam, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll see you on the other side.